Good morning, Anna. She says at 2:30 in the afternoon. Good afternoon and Happy New Year. If you're on this video, then the chances are you've already done your research, watched every single YouTube video, followed every single neurodivergent TikToker you can find, gone backwards and forwards between, oh my god, this is me, to, oh my god, what if this is not me and I'm just an awkward blob on this planet with no rational explanation, until you finally decided, nay, confirmed, or just have your suspicions that you are in fact autistic, and now are just wondering how to go about getting a diagnosis. I will just say before we get into this that it's not compulsory that you have a formal diagnosis. If you yourself know in your heart that you're autistic and that's enough for you, then that's fine. I will just say that there are a couple of benefits maybe to having a diagnosis. If you live with a partner or still living with parents, it can be a little bit easier for them to understand you, and if they understand you better, they might understand your needs better, and so on and so forth. You might just have an easier time communicating if they're aware. Employment, for example, it's something that you can tell your employer, and legally, in the UK anyway, reasonable adjustments have to be made in order for you to be able to do your job. So it's just something to think about, kind of weigh up the pros and cons. Just wanted to say that before we get into it. It's like, you don't have to have a diagnosis. This is not me telling you you need a diagnosis, otherwise you're not autistic. It doesn't work like that. I knew for years that I was autistic before I got my formal diagnosis. So anyway, step 2. I'm starting with step 2 because technically step 1 would be your research, but as discussed in the intro, you've probably already done that if you're here. So step 2, getting a support system in place. So this step for some might be a kind of like, I don't want to tell anyone yet, I don't want to tell people until I have a formal diagnosis, because what if I'm wrong and then they just think I'm super weird. Chances are they probably think you're weird anyway. Just gonna put that out there. This step will be important in the later steps, so you're gonna want to do this. And I'm not saying tell the whole world, maybe just 1 or 2 close people to you, maybe your partner, parent, sibling, someone you trust, who can support you throughout this journey. I was just filming for like 20 minutes and I thought, let me just check my camera, and ta-da, and it stopped recording. Great. So this step is going to be also quite important during the actual assessments, since they're going to want to hear from people who know you well, knew you as a child, and can get like a history of your development. So yeah. So you've done your research, you've got your support system in place, it's now time to move on to actually pursuing a diagnosis. Now you can do this one of 2 ways. You can either go through the NHS, which is what I did, or you can choose to go privately. Going privately does eliminate some of the wait time, since typically for the NHS you're going to be waiting around 6 months to 2 years. At least that's what they say anyway, so just bear that in mind. Going private is also quite expensive, since you're not going to be covered by the NHS. So to go down the NHS route like I did, we'll move on to step 3. Don't know what I did with my hand there. It's an autism channel, it doesn't matter what I did with my hands. So step 3, calling your GP. Now this can be quite anxiety inducing if you don't like making phone calls, especially phone calls within the medical field. For me, I just get really nervous. I hate anything medical, that kind of thing. So anyway, you're gonna call up, they're gonna ask you what the appointment's about, what you want it for. Just keep it brief. You just need to say something like, I think I might be autistic, so I'd just like to make a telephone appointment to get a referral for an assessment. And then they're gonna say something like, okay, lovely, let me just have a look for you. Okay, we can do tomorrow morning at 8 for you. And voila, you have your appointment. So, step 4. The appointment. For this step, it might be useful to have someone with you from your little support system, since they're going to ask you quite a few questions about yourself, and it kind of feels like you're on trial. I'm not going to lie, I felt like I was on trial. I mean, they need to have enough evidence to actually refer you, so they're going to ask you a lot of questions. If they deem you to have enough evidence, they will refer you. If not, they won't. So what I did before my call is I actually wrote down in bullet point forms a bunch of things that I consider to be autism traits, things that I struggle to cope with, that, you know, sensory issues, that kind of thing. But I didn't just write down vague stuff, I wrote specifics, okay? And this is bullet points. We're talking like 8 pages, front and back. Front and back of all of my quirks. I wrote down things like people putting the dishes away, the sound of hair dryers, the fact that I use very specific cutlery and plates and mugs, and if anyone else uses those things, I get quite angry, a lot angry. I get very angry actually, just don't touch my stuff. And it doesn't have to be negative things. You don't just have to write down all the things that you think are wrong with you, because there's nothing wrong with you. You can write down your strengths as well. So if you are good at a particular subject, if you excel at a particular skill, like, I don't know, a musical instrument, not to stereotype, you get what I mean. And once you've kind of given them all of this information, they will then determine whether to refer you for an autism diagnosis or whether to not. If they choose not to refer you, you can absolutely push this, and this is where it might be useful to have someone else with you who can advocate for you, who understands your needs and can communicate clearly on your behalf, because I know for me, I just accept things. I accept things and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine, sorry. And I apologize for everything, but I just accept things, and then for days afterwards, I just agonize about all the things I should have said. And by that time, it's like, it's a bit too late. So having someone with you who can just take the phone, advocate for you, communicate clearly can be really helpful. If they still choose not to refer you, phone up again, ask for a different GP. Ask for someone else, second opinion as it were. If they have decided to refer you, we'll move on to step 5, which is the referral. And what they're going to do, once they referred you, the diagnostic service who has your information will reach out to you. They will send you 2 to 3 forms for you to fill in and return to them. This might vary depending on the service, however the content should be the same. For me, I was sent 3 forms. The first one I was sent was kind of like a statement-based form where I had to agree, disagree, strongly agree or strongly disagree with the statement that had been written, and I believe this was maybe 3 pages, like double-sided and then an additional one. And I mean, there were statements like, I find it easy to join in with social conversations, agree, disagree, strongly, etc, etc. So just to give you an example, once you've filled that in, it's kind of like a questionnaire, I guess, that's the word. Statement-based thing, questionnaire. Once you've filled that in, there'll be another one where you have to answer questions quite specifically about your childhood, memories that you can remember, situations like what did you do in X situation and Y situation, etc. There'll also be a third form for someone else to fill in. This can be someone who knows you well, this can be your parent, a sibling, a close friend, someone who knew you as a child preferably, since when they're doing the assessment, that's what they look for. They look for your childhood development and check for, I was gonna say check for symptoms, that's not, check for traits, that kind of thing. If you don't have anyone around you that can do that, that's okay, just let them know and they'll probably ask to see your school reports. Once you've sent that back and they send you a stamped envelope for you to return that in, so you don't have to worry about getting a stamp. To someone who's not autistic, that might seem quite silly, oh, there's only a stamp, but going to the post office, dealing with people, if you're not really sure where you're, just, yeah. Okay, once you've sent that in, you should then hear back within about 6 weeks. For me, I think I heard back literally 3 or 4 weeks later with my assessment date. So I really didn't have to wait too long to hear back from them. And they then booked my assessment for maybe 2 months after. So I was really lucky. I did not have to wait long at all, considering how long other people have been waiting for or can wait for. Like I said earlier, 6 months to 2 years. So I was exceptionally lucky, I think. So anyway, moving on to step 6, the assessment itself. You made it, congratulations. So again, the structure of the assessment itself might vary from provider to provider. My assessment, I didn't have to go anywhere, it wasn't face-to-face. I had to do a video call. I did 2 video calls, they were 3 hours each. So I did a total of 6 hours of assessment. My dad sat in for the first one with me and my mum came in for the second one. So the first one basically just covered my history from infancy all the way up to now, and we covered what school was like for me, how I made friends, how I got on with other people, any personal, any traumatic experiences. You know, they don't obviously pry, but they want to know like everything. So for me, it was really helpful having my dad in for the first assessment, since he was able to remember things from when I was a child that I don't recall, despite having an exceptional memory. Like for instance, Charlotte would have to turn the light switch off and on again multiple times at the bottom of the stairs before she could go up to bed, and if she wasn't able to, she would scream and scream. Just things like that. So it was very helpful having him in there with me. For the second assessment, this is more observational based. I had to play some games, there were some exercises to do, and again my mum sat in for the second half with me. And some of the exercises, one of them in particular was to name 5 emotions other than happy, sad or angry. So I panicked and came up with guilty, hungry and scared. I will say that for these assessments, I didn't really know how to act because you don't know what to expect. You really don't know what to expect. You don't know who the person is. For me, there was a small comfort in that I was in my bedroom, just using my webcam, in my pajamas, so all safe place, all my safe bubble, that kind of thing. One of the first things that my assessor said to me was, you don't need to try and act more autistic, or you don't need to try and act autistic or a certain way. And I was like, she knows. Like, I full on panicked. I was like, oh God. But it's true, you don't. You just try as hard as it is to just be yourself, because they know exactly what they're looking for. They know how to pull things out of you, despite how well you think you hide them. Actually, one thing, she caught me out because we took a break about halfway through because it's very intense. Answering all these questions about your life, doing all these games and trying to complete tasks, it's tiring. So we took a break and she was like, okay, do you want 5 minutes, 10 minutes? And I was like, no, 5 minutes is fine, because I was just gonna sit at my desk anyway, just stare out the window. So the time was 10:47 in the morning. Now she'd already suggested 5 minutes, so already I've seen the time and I'm like, right, 10:52 is when we come back, that's 5 minutes from now. She was kind of already read my mind and was about to suggest what time to come back for, and she was like, okay, so 10:52, 10:53, and I was like, I kind of paused for a second, and I was like 10:52, because in my brain it's 5 minutes. It's not 6 minutes, you said 5 minutes. 10:52 is when we return. She's like, okay, 10:52-ish. And I froze. I was like, because ish. 10:52-ish. Do I come back at 10:52 or 10:53? But she called me out with that one. She did it on purpose. And this is what I mean. Like, they're not trying to trick you. They're just trying to see how you react to, like, certain things when you're presented with something an autistic person would struggle with. So, anyway, once you've done your assessments, they'll usually be about a week apart. Mine were anyway, just so you can recover from the first one. So that leads us on to step 7, the results. And generally they will schedule another appointment with you to do a face-to-face or video call, whichever your assessments were, and they'll talk through your results with you. She didn't waste any time. She told me pretty quickly that I did in fact hit the criteria for an autism diagnosis, and I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting an autism diagnosis, obviously, but then she confirmed it and I was like, oh no, I want to go back because I don't like change. I didn't really think this through, did I? Anyway, I had the results appointment, and then generally what they'll do, they'll kind of talk through some helpful material, give you some resources that can help you. She gave me a load of things for like my parents to read, or my just my family, just helpful resources to help them understand a little bit as well. What they'll do after you've had your results appointment, they'll generally schedule like a follow-up meeting about 2 months later, just to see how you're getting on, because it's a big thing to process, and obviously for autistic people, myself included, processing not so good at takes quite a long time. Everyone will react completely differently. It's just a whole cocktail of emotions. And for me, relief is where I eventually landed. My life makes sense. Thank you so much for watching. If you found any of this information helpful or valuable, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing, and I will see you in the next video. She told me pretty quickly that I did hit the criteria. Have you seen that blooper in Game of Thrones where Tyrion's like, privet? Anyway, relief is the biggest word that I can... Christ, oh, I'm getting so tired. I'm getting so tired. It would mean the world to... How do I make that not sound fake? It would mean the world to me. It genuinely would, but you know, like when you go into a shop and then like walk out with nothing and you try and act innocent, like you haven't stolen anything? Yeah, that's autism. That's how autism feels. Please do consider subscribing, because it would genuinely, see, I'm overselling it out, mean the world to me. And I will see you in the next video. Oh no, I need to look at the camera on it. Oh God. This is why I haven't done YouTube yet, because I'm just terrible. Oh Christ, okay. I'm gonna go lie down now. Good luck with your... Okay Christ, I'm gonna go lie down now. Bye!